It's belief in what you're doing. It's belief in yourself. He heard no like 75 freaking time from every producer. They told him he would never be able to act. He looked like a weirdo. He talked like a weirdo. And that's what the 110 was for me, because it was nothing. It was just a joke between me and my wife. That, for me, that's what it's about. Like, that gives me goosebumps just talking about it, because I mean, that impact.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cody Cottle Show, where I bring on the best of the best to help you step into your God-given purpose. Today, I have a very high-level, phenomenal guest, a good friend of mine. This individual is a founder of one of the fastest-growing five-star mortgage companies in the U.S. He's also a motivational speaker. He's been on tour. He's been traveling. He's been speaking at the most epic and amazing events. Chris Groves, welcome to the Cody Cottle Show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, we're honored to have you here, man. Well, let's get right into it. Chris, what do you value most in life?
What I value most in life is people being a person of their word, right? I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand when I say that, but for me, that's everything. Whether doing business or my relationships, friendships, me and my wife, it's just, if you tell someone you're going to do something, you do it. And if you're not able to perform, then you communicate about it, fix it, and move on. But I think a lot of people like to talk a big game and nothing ever gets done. So put action behind your words and mean it.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And obviously, that's probably a core value that you live your life by then, right?
Every day. That's honestly the biggest thing for me. I'm from the Midwest, and I always say Midwest people kind of have that more than the West Coast or East Coast kind of people. In Midwest, people get it when I say that. It's like,
I'm like, I got you, bro.
Be a person of your word. And you figured that most people would just do that, but they don't. So I try to get people like, hey, listen, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm all in. I'm 110. I'm going to make sure it's accomplished. And if I can't do it, I'm going to come back to you right away and figure out a solution to solve, you know?
Yeah, well, you just said 110, so now I got to ask, right? So you've built a whole brand and a whole movement around 110. Yeah. What is 110? Where to start from? Why 110?
Me and my wife kind of joke about it, because the 110 kind of started as a joke in premise. The idea was, if I could get people to start changing their mind frame about performance at a smaller level, right? So when you work with salespeople all day long, like I do, and especially recruiting, is everyone's 100%, 100%, 100%. Like, it almost got so redundant in my head, it started becoming a bad word in my head. It kind of drove me nuts, right? So, and all these people are like, oh, 100%. So I told my wife, I'm going to switch it. It's going to be 110. And for me, what that means is going above and beyond. Like, for me, life isn't just stopping at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and it's done. It's done when the job is done. It's done when it's accomplished. And that's how I've always lived my life. It's not about, hey, here's the bare minimum, Chris, here's your checklist. Every job I've ever done, I've always went above and beyond for that employer, for myself, to accomplish my goals. And that's the only reason I'm sitting here. It wasn't saying, hey, here's the normal standard. That's never going to get you to achieve greatness by just the normal, right? You have to go above and beyond. You have to extend yourself, and it requires sacrifice to get there. So the 110 is about what that really means, what sacrifices are required, the effort that's needed on an everyday basis, and really the mindset that doesn't matter what's standing in your way, you're going to push past those obstacles to accomplish your goals. Yeah,
that's so good, right? And they say we either rise or fall to the level of our standards. And it's like you've created this culture of 110. But then I love how you attach it to, like, it's not done when normal people are going off work. It's done when the job's done. Okay. And that, to me, that's excellence. Like, you strive for excellence. You create a culture of excellence. I love that. And it's a tribute to what you've built. So tell us the story. A lot of my viewers and my audience might not know who you are, Chris, what you've done. I do. Like, just tell us the recap of your story and, how you got to where you're at, but also like the mess to message.
Yeah. So, I'll try to keep it condensed as much as possible. So, a little background from me. I grew up in a town called Valders, Wisconsin. It was about 942 people. We had a Piggly Wiggly, we had a church, and a gas station. That was about it, right? So, I came from a very, small mind frame community. My parents moved me out to California probably my freshman year of high school, and it was a big pivoting time. So I went from a town of 942 to a graduating class at that time to close to about 1,000 people. So very different, aspects. And when I was growing up, I was working on farms every day after school, milking cows, dairy farm. Every time I tell people that, they look at me and they're like, there's no way. But I assure you there was. I don't ever want to go back to it, but it is hard work. And, that's kind of where it all came from, is work hard regardless of what you're doing. And I always wanted to make money. I was working at 12 years old because, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So I knew if I wanted something, I got to work for it. So at 12, I've always had a job. In high school, I had 2 jobs, and I've always, even today, I've run 4 different companies. There's not one thing I do. So when people say I have a hard time getting a job, I always laugh. I'm like, how's that possible? I have a hard time not having so many jobs, right? Because there's always something to be doing. Now, so fast forward, went to high school in California, graduated at 17 years old, went back to Wisconsin for college. My parents, we just had different viewpoints. My mom's an alcoholic. It kind of really got me in the mindset of being very self-disciplined and controlled. And that's kind of really where I got my level of fitness from is that discipline. And then watching people destroy themselves through alcohol and drugs was, part of my upbringing. And I realized that I never wanted anything to control my life except for me, right? And if any time I felt addicted to something or felt like I was, had to do something, I would cut it cold turkey. So for me, discipline is everything. If you're not a disciplined person, you're not going to accomplish a lot. And that's what, fitness kind of drove me into. So at that time, I wanted to get into culinary. I wanted to be hardcore in culinary. I was apprenticing with some top chefs at the time, worked for the Culinary Institute of America. So had a really cool experience at a young age. I was supposed to go away to college at the CIA in New York. That summer, I went to Wisconsin as my senior year, and I was supposed to work at the American Club Kohler, which is one of my dreams. It's a 5-star restaurant. The executive chef was going to take me underneath his wing. First day I get there, I had a major traumatic accident in my hand. I almost cut off 2 of my fingers the first day I was in town. So long story short, summer was horrible. I went through physical therapy. Every 3 hours I do these finger exercises. I ended up crashing my brother's car that summer. My girlfriend at the time broke up with me. It was like my whole life just crumbled within this summer, right? But long story short, my parents, at that time I wanted to be in culinary. They're like, no, you need to go into business. You don't want to be behind the kitchen. So that the knife cut really did transition my life. So I went into business and kinesiology at that time. So I got into fitness at a high level there. I've always loved fitness. My dad was Arnold Guy, Van Damme, watched it growing up. Who doesn't want to be big, muscular, and strong? And my dad was always pumped up about that stuff. He was into working out. He just didn't understand the diet aspect. So I was like, maybe physical therapy and personal training. So I got into physical therapy, personal training, liked it. Physical therapy was a little too boring for me, so I really transitioned to personal training. When I got into bodybuilding is when I started really excelling. And we're learning nutrition. So my coach at the time was Shoshana Trussell. She was one of the first people that went to Stanford for nutrition. So I learned underneath her. That's really when I started getting very good with my clients and really knowing how to change the body and really understanding the physiology of how everything works. So I started running a very lucrative personal training business privately. I would train about 16 to 18 hours a day. Wow. I was nonstop. And I'd wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. and be in the gym. I'd be working until 9 or 10 o'clock every night. It got good. It made a lot of money. At even my 20s, I was making $250,000 as a personal trainer. And I think it got up to a range of 300,000 to 400,000 at the end of it. But I got to the point where I was just capping out my income, right? There's only so much time I could give. And my whole life was always revolved about time, right? My dad was a workaholic. How many hours he worked in a day was always, was he successful based on that? And I took that mindset for a long time. Like, how many hours is dependent if I'm successful, which is, it's one way. Yes, you're making money and you are using your time and you are successful at a certain level, but it's never going to allow you to really grow out of that space. You're in a glass ceiling yourself. Yeah. So I got into real estate at that time. Started off as an appraiser, then agent, then broker, then running the Keller Williams office with some of the high levels over there and started recruiting and building from that aspect. I loved real estate. It was bigger negotiations, people. I love dealing with people on a daily basis. And then I met my wife right around that time. She kind of talked me into getting into more involved in the real estate, and she really wanted me to step away from the training businesses. And at that time, she was getting into mortgages. So just kind of saw her jumping around a lot in the space. And as her husband, or fiance and husband around that time, I just said, there's got to be someone that has a good platform. Why do you move so often? And I look at resumes all day long. Most of these people jump so much. Everyone's looking for that best situation for their family. So I said, let's do it. And, at that point, she was very hesitant. So I was debating to go more corporate with Keller Williams at that time and, take over a big office. And she's like, you should take it. It's going to be about balance. It's going to be, our life will be a lot more balanced. And I'm like, well, when you go to work for a big corporation, if something fails and they let you go, it's done, right? I don't have a book of business I can work on in that scenario. No more production, self-production. I would shut down my training business, would shut down my real estate business to be a leader there. And they already had 4 leaders fail, which I like challenges. But when you walk into an office and people are just like looking like it's a bleak opportunity and it's already failed 4 times, to let go of all my business, which I never believe in letting go of my book, it was a very hard thing for me to do because I worked my butt off to have a book of business. So we went to Costa Rica. We said, hey, let's talk about it, figure out, make sure we're on the same wavelength here. We ended up coming back and opened up Groves Capital. So initially, I did it for my wife. I wanted her to be happy, stop complaining. I was on the real estate side. She was on the mortgage side. We were doing very well together. We were crushing it. We were doing 7 figures, just the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And then I looked at her one day. We were probably at about 2.5 years in, just kind of doing our thing. I was still running my training business, still doing my real estate business, and she was doing the loans. And I said, let's grow this, right? And she laughed at me. She's like, what do you mean, let's grow this? I'm like, well, we built this for you. This is what you've always wanted, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, I think other people are going to want it as well, right? You've been in the space, you're successful. Let's give it to other people. So she kind of gave me this look, and I said, okay. And I started going on LinkedIn. I remember started clicking people and having conversations, cold calling. And I started in May of that year. And by December, the end of the year, we had over 50 loan officers by the end of that time frame. It was 6 months. And then, I remember our first company party, I think we had like 58 around there, 58 people. And she's like, oh my God. And from then COVID hit. And then I looked at my wife during that time. I said, okay, this is our big time, because we built our company virtual.
Right.
And we were kind of those companies at first, no one was virtual. Everyone was working in the office. A lot of people are on the phones. They want that kind of space. And I said, no, I don't like big overhead. I don't like a lot of stress in the back end, huge nut that I have to fill every month. So my motto is, like, after running many businesses over the years, less is more as far as your overhead, right? And especially when times get like tough like this, I'm not downsizing because I don't have this huge overhead and inflation over the top of me.
Right.
Right. So I said, okay, we're virtual. COVID is happening. No one can leave their house. What are they going to do? There's nothing else to do actually except for work. So I really literally remember having this conversation in the living room. And the next 2 years, I said, we're going to do nothing but work. We're going to recruit, we're going to grow, we're going to build, and we're going to set ourselves up for life. And she looked at me and she's like, I'm like, are you in? And she's like, I'm in. So from that 58 people within the span of like 2.5 years, I'd grown it to close to 600 people in that span of time.
Come on.
And that was just COVID, because I'm like, we have nothing else to do. So, and then it started trickling effect because people wanted to be virtual, right? Because now they're like, oh, I have to be home. And then they started enjoying being at home. And now people like to be at home and work. So it was the right timing, but we also put in a lot of effort for that timing and started refining our back end of it. So Groves Capital really grown. We've grown across the country. We're in about 23 states right now. We're still growing across the country as more states go live. We'll add more. We built a new commercial division lately as the markets change. We're dropping a new solar division coming up next month as well. So pretty much we do everything in the lending space except for personal loans. So commercial, residential, hard money, solar, all that stuff's there. And then I started my motivational speaking about a year and a half ago, really putting all my energy into the 110 and making that brand a reality, which kind of gave me the rejuvenation, the belief that anything's possible if you put your energy into it, right? Like, obviously, I've done this many times through my life, but sometimes we need that reminder. And that's what the 110 was for me, because it was nothing. It was just a joke between me and my wife. And we put all our energy. Every time I met with friends, anytime they say 100%, I'd correct them, change it, and start really focusing on what that actually was, and then started getting events scheduled based on being a motivational speaker, because I'd go to places, hey, I'm a speaker, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then it started trickling in, right? Because I manifested that I'm going to do this. This is what I'm meant to do. That's what I'm putting out to the universe, and it started happening. But I was all in every day, and I'm still all in. And right now we're working on a TV show. I find a really great development team that's interested in the project finally, because that was the most important to me, because a lot of people want drama on TV. I don't want to be another drama reality show about my family and my life. I want something that's positive, that's going to help someone like I was, inspire them to do something more. And a lot of people, look at their position in life. They don't have much money. They don't come from the best part of town. They feel like they don't have the tools to be successful. So yeah. I want to take those people and make them understand you do. It's belief in what you're doing. It's belief in yourself, but also getting outside that box. And you can't use the excuses, the barriers of everyday life. Say, this is why I'm not here. That's why you're not there. It's because you're just constantly using barriers. In my mind, there's no level that I can't achieve. right? If I really want to do something, I'm going to freaking make it happen because I'm going to will it, right?
Well, and you, like you said, you have the belief. Like you believe you can do it. That's massive. But you also said earlier that discipline is everything. And you have the discipline to back the belief up.
Yeah, you got to be disciplined in what you do. And that, like, even when, like, there's moments like I wake up every morning, I work out, right? I'm still into fitness. I love fitness. Is there mornings I don't want to work out? Of course. Is there mornings I don't want to cold call some loan officer or partner and talk to them? Of course. I got to get in that mindset, but I do it every day, even through the holidays. The only day I took off was Christmas Day and New Year's Day. The rest of I was working. I was on the weekend those holidays. So when people are slowing down, I'm like, no, I'm going to keep moving on. Why? People are more apt to pick up the phone during that time, right? Because they had more time where everyone's like, oh, it's the holidays, I'm going to take a break. I'm like, no, I mean, for me, and that's personal. Some people will say, hey, this is balance, right? But the one thing I always preach about balance is when you're trying to create something, when you're trying to be someone, when you're trying to be the best, whether it's athlete, whether it's entrepreneur, whether it's husband, whether, your friend, you have to go above and beyond. You have to give it that 110, right? You're gonna have sacrifices. There's always gonna be sacrifices in life if you really want to achieve something. But you have to understand that and be okay with that. And you got to give up something to achieve something better. And that's what people have to understand.
Yeah, that's so good, man. So like, where do you fully want to take 110 movement? Like, what's the vision for this long term? Like you mentioned a TV show.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of where you're on right now, but I'm curious. Like, do you want to be like another Tony Robbins? Like what is the legacy you want to carve out with 110?
Yeah, and a lot of people reference like you're like a lot like Tony Robbins, and like I love Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a great guy. He's done amazing things. I mean, I've seen him speak. I met him personally this last year, which is great. One guy that's bigger than me, bigger head too. But for me, I feel like there needs to be a new age of motivational speakers, like even what you're doing as well. It's like we're young, we're energetic. It's a new phase. Like most people our age, millennials, are not watching Tony Robbins. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
40, 50-year-old guys, and women, yes, that's kind of their level. A lot of people, they kind of know what it is, but a lot of people, millennials, don't. They're like, who's Tony Robbins? You're just like, how do you not know this?
True.
So I think what I see as being a new age motivational speaker and presenting information in a way that people are able to receive it today is important. Not that Tony Robbins is irrelevant. It's moving to a new generation. So who's the ones that are going to be handing off? Me and you are going to be taking it over, right?
100%.
You were 110, Cody, 110.
There we go, guys. I had to have him correct me live at least once. 110.
110. So, yeah, that's where I see it, just being a new age motivational speaker, getting to people in a new way, getting them to react, respond, get an emotional response so they make changes. And that's where I really would like to see my space. I love helping other people. I love mentoring. And when you see that one, whether it's, you're talking to 1,000 people and one person takes your advice and excels and crushes it, that, for me, that's what it's about. Like, that gives me goosebumps just talking about it because I mean, that impact. And I'll tell you a quick story about that, just to kind of give you a reference point. So a couple weeks ago, I'm part of this group called Fast Lane Drive. It's cool. We drive around exotic cars. It's fun. It's
been watching the content. It's pretty fire. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's fun. And obviously it's every boy's dream to drive around exotic cars all day long and hang out. But the group is very positive. That's what I like about the group. It's people that a lot of them are doing big things, but they're happy for your success. The one thing as you do become more successful and you start raising yourself in life, not everyone's going to follow that. Okay. A lot of your friends are not going to, appreciate it or support it because it makes them feel bad about where they're at because they're not progressing as much. Yeah. And that's one thing I've struggled a lot the last, few years. And I really had to really focus on weeding out the people that were taking my energy that weren't on the same path, right? And some of those people are great people. Like I respect them, they're good families, good things, but spending time on people that are not your same path, they're not helping you be better, they're not inspiring you or still like wanting to achieve something, it takes away energy. And there's only so much energy, so much time we have. Yeah. So I started focusing my time on people that understood that and that I want to spend my time with because there's only so much time in the day. So that's kind of how the Fast Lane Drive thing, came about, was trying to meet people that are young.
You saw that as like an opportunity to get around more people that were going for it in life like you.
Yeah, exactly. And just energy. And when you say something, hey, I did this, it's not like, oh, why do you want that? They're like, dude, that's so awesome. I'm happy for you. It was like a weird, bad feeling. I didn't have to feel, I guess the best word is feel bad about my success. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the higher you climb up the ladder, the harder it gets to share your wins because some people don't know how to receive that in the right way. Because it creates insecurity, and then they're almost like hoping you fail, and they're draining your energy, or they just don't connect and relate with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And like you said, you're going to experience a lot as you grow. Any of you entrepreneurs out here that's listening to this, as you get better, there's going to people that are going to hate on you, even your closest friends, sometimes your family. Yeah. And, for me, it was letting go of that. It's like, listen, like life's short. I want to be around people that inspire me to be the best me. And I want to do that same thing for them. I want to help them be the best them. And together, that's why we're spending time together. If they're taking away your energy, if these people make you feel bad, if you feel like you have to hide who you are, let it go. It's not worth the relationship. So back to my story really quick. So we're fast lane drive up in LA. We were coming back down. There's 4 or 5 of us who were coming back down from San Diego because we were at the LA chapter. And we stopped in Compton to get gas. So we're all pulling over McLarens and Ferraris and all that stuff. And these 3 or 4 kids pop out of a Honda Civic next to me in Compton, right? And we're rolling out here. I'm like, all right, now best part of town, we need to get gas. So these kids come out of the car and, of course, look at our cars like, oh my God, what do you do, right? And you always get those responses when you drive those cars. Everyone's like, what do you do? And I told him, I'm like, that's not the question you should ask. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, doesn't matter what I do. It matters what my mindset is. What is my mindset to achieve this, right? You can make money in a lot of different things, but the mindset's the difference. Like there's people that are personal trainers that make $30,000 a year. There's people that make a couple $100,000 a year. There's doctors that make $150,000. There's doctors that make millions of dollars a year. It's the mindset and where they're putting their effort. So I was talking to the guys about this, and one of the guys was a personal trainer at the time. So I told him I started all this personal training, really. I mean, that's how I built my income to build my mortgage company. It was my hard work and labor, and I saved it, put all the time and money to build my business. And talked to him for a little bit. We connected on IG. I was trying to always help people out. And a couple months ago, he messaged me. He's like, hey, bro, I just want to let you know, like, after meeting you, changed my life. Like, I started my own business. I started crushing it on my level, started saving more money. I just wanted to take the time to say thank you, right?
Come on.
And there's that little story, just 10 minutes of my time in Compton, helped this kid change his life, which is cool. And they actually just sent me a T-shirt. I gotta do some postings for him because I said I'd post for him. He started this new clothing line, which is cool. But it's things like that where people don't take the time to talk to people and push them further, right? A lot of people just care about them, what they're doing. But ask questions to other people, help people be better around you, and it will help you in return. It's a big circle. Yeah,
that's so good, right? And there's that saying that says, like, the better the question that you ask, the better the answer that you're going to get. It's you're driven individual, Chris, and I've seen that since I got to know you and you came to the June 30th event, and just kind of everything that you set your mind to it and you go do it and you live up to it, right? And that very first thing that you opened up with us, like doing what you said you were going to do. There's a lot of people in the world that struggle with the drive, staying on mission, accomplishing the goal. What advice would you give to that person? The person that maybe has tried and I want to say fail, but the truth is just given up over and over again.
Well, I think I had a video about this the other day. I mean, I always think about the light bulb because something that's around me all the time. Like, how many times did he fail on making the light bulb? 1,000 times. 1,000 times things didn't work until that one time it did, right? And how many stories, like look at Rocky, Sylvester Stallone. With Rocky, he heard no like 75 freaking time from every producer. They told him he would never be able to act. He looked like a weirdo. He talked like a weirdo. It would never happen for him. And what did he do? He's still going. He's in his 75 years old. He's still ripped up and doing movies and making a ton of money because he had a belief in himself. So those are the stories I even remind myself of when I get, depleted of energy or I get down on something. It comes down to remembering those stories because those people only made it because they had such a belief that they were going to accomplish something and they ended up doing it. And sometimes just being in front of the right person or the right entity that, has a belief in you as well. But regardless, if you don't have that self-belief in yourself, you're never going to go anywhere. And no one ever did something one time and just became super successful. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've never heard of stories like, hey, I did it one time, unless it's the lotto.
Then they lose it all.
Then I win it all and it's gone. But yeah, I mean, everyone, whether it's an athlete, whether it's an entrepreneur, they failed so many things before they succeeded. But that's the discipline.
Yeah.
Going out day after day, night after night, putting hours, the time into it because, hey, I know, I believe in what I'm going to do. It's happened for these other people. It's going to happen for me. But that's one thing will help you drive there. And there are some projects that you're going to put your attention on that are just never going to happen. That's life. Like Elon Musk, does he not fail businesses? I think he's failing at one big one right now, right? Like he picks it up and this guy has all the money in the world. Doesn't mean that, and even at that level, he's taking on Twitter, which, you know, who knows if he'll pull this rabbit out of the hat, but as of right now, it's not, right? And he's got all the money, all the influence, and he's still struggling.
Yeah.
Right? And then people got to understand that concept, and you got to know when, hey, it's a dead deal. But if you have the passion, the belief in something, don't freaking give up. Just remember the light bulb, and maybe your light bulb will go off.
Hey, that's good advice. Well, speaking of advice, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
No, I mean, honestly, it's just follow your passion is, I guess, is the best advice I've ever gotten. To be honest, like I've been those people, I've never really had mentors. And that's probably why I want to be in that space so much, because I never really had someone that said, hey, you can do this. I believe in you. This is the path you need to follow. Like no one gave me that. It was for me, I've learned from people around me. Like I'm not a big book reader. Like I was like, what book did you read, Chris? And I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't learn that way. It's never been my thing. I learned through people. And and through training, through all my businesses, I've been around successful people that had money, obviously. And I'm a sponge. I learn from them. You know, like if I listen to people, if someone's saying, hey, I shouldn't have done this, and you start hearing it repetitively through all the people, then don't do it. Just why spend the time of failing at something that you know it's going to fail? Yeah. And the same thing with positives, like I should have invested in this. I should have put money towards this. I should have done this. And you start hearing over and over. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I've heard enough times that they should have done this, so I'm going to put that effort towards that. That's only it was one of the biggest reasons I became successful at a young age was just clearly that. Instead of going through and falling on my own, why? If I already have a path of like avoiding the fall, why would I fall? But some people have that hard obsession where like, well, what do they know? What do they know? Well, if I hear a bunch of people and that's the consensus, I'm going to use my opinion. I'm going to make the right decision. So ask people questions, successful people, like, what are you doing? But everyone wants to say, what are you doing to make that money? What's the mindset you're doing to make that money? Like, what's your mindset every day when you go to work? What do you really want to accomplish? So that's why I always tell people just see the shiny things in cars and houses and just think it's like, okay, what are you doing to get there? But they're not really understanding what it took. There's a difference. And
there's so much more, right? Like even before you have the action of doing those things, like there is the mindset and the belief system that you've built in yourself that allows you to take those actions and get those results. And we're in such a world where I don't have my phone in here, but we're sold that all day long. Highlight reels, right? The fast lane drive, McLaren, this and that. Like, but what they don't see is the guy that only took Christmas and New Year's Day off still at that place in his life, driving the McLaren, still picking the phone up.
Yeah. Well, funny thing, I had that car for a month. I've driven it the first time today, buddy. First time I haven't had time. Really? I'm not even joking. I have these things. Let's look at my house. I've been in my pool twice. I've sat in my backyard. I've used my barbecue once. Yes, I have these things. I worked my butt off, but I look at them through my day. Mainly I keep them around because if I'm working this hard, I want to at least see that I'm creating something, right? But I rarely enjoy them. Yeah. And it sounds silly. It's funny. I even think about it. Maybe I should enjoy that a little bit more. But
there's a little bit. Let's go there. Are you ever going to take your foot off the gas and enjoy a season? Or I'm just curious.
For me, I try to take it off every once, like one time a year. Me and my wife will take a holiday together, and I try to let it, like, for our relationship, we don't bring our kids, just me and her time, and we're best friends as well. But it's a time to rekindle our relationship because we're business partners as well, and it just focuses on us just having fun, and we have a blast together. Last year we did Egypt. This year's going to be our 10-year anniversary.
Let's go.
And, a big milestone for us, so we're planning a big epic trip this summer, which, as long as I have something big to plan for, like for me, it's like I want to see the world, and I love history, and I love, like, understanding other people. So I like travel. That for me, that's what I look forward to. So I'm going to work my butt off to make sure I have the most epic trip there, and I get the most out of that for me. But the hardest thing for me, to be honest, like, we go back and I do the same thing with my kids. We have a trip for them. Like, we just went to the, Hawaii. We went to the Lawney Resort with Disney.
Yeah, I saw
And,
that.
hung out with Mickey and joyfulness. But that's what the kids wanted, and, it was present for them, and that's their time. So we do our time solo, and then we have the time for the kids. But what I'm trying to say is, like, for me, accomplishing things and, it's a lot more fulfilling than watching a Netflix show.
Yeah.
Okay. Me sitting around doing nothing when I can do something with my talents or help someone out or, further my place in life, I feel like I don't want to waste the time, right? And fulfillment and accomplishing things has become my happiness. I love accomplishing things, whether that's coaching my kid to be a better person, whether that's helping a loan officer make more money, whether that's helping someone with their fitness tips. Like those things fill me up, right? That's my energy.
Yeah.
That's my happiness. Me sitting around sipping a pina colada on the beach, there's only so much water I can stare at before I'm going to pick up my phone and start making some deals happen. People laugh. I'll be calling people on Bora Bora. They're like, "You're in Bora Bora and you're calling me right now?" I'm like, "I looked at the ocean for an hour. It's the same." There's only so much water I can stare at, and I can't drink sugar and sit around and do nothing. So for me, yes, I'll take moments of it, but I like being productive. That is honestly my happiness.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And thanks for sharing that with us, man. I guess like always like digging into people, like if I were to hire you today, Chris, right? Like I hired you and I'm like, "Chris, I want to go to the next level, bro. Like I'm crushing it, but I want to go bigger." Like, what are you going to tell me?
Really, we just got to figure out what the main focus is, right? Because a lot of people say, "I just want to get bigger," right? I want to be best. I want to be rich. I want to have this, but they don't really define what that is, right? So I always tell people, let's make a clear path and define what the ultimate goal is. What does that look like, right? And then let's back it up. How do we achieve it now that we know exactly what we're looking for? Because most people don't have that. They're like, "I just want to be rich and I just want to be happy and I want to have all these things."
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's here. You're here. Where are we going? Like, how are we getting to that point? And a lot of people don't understand that concept. They just think like magically it's going to happen. I'm going to get this job. I'm just going to get super rich. So you got to give the milestones. So you got to build the roadmap. Say, okay, you want to get here. We need to build the roadmap to achieve that. And along the way, here's the pinnacles we need to hit to achieve it, right? And you got to enjoy the ride as well. Like every time you hit a pinnacle, for me, I love cars, obviously. I love Rolex's jewelry. Like for me, I made those my trophies for certain milestones because they kept me motivated as well. If you don't have things to shoot for, it doesn't have to be jewelry or extrinsic things like go on a trip. Like you have to map out goals and rewards, and if you don't hit that, you don't get the reward, right? But I think a lot of people, we like reward system because it makes us feel good.
Yeah.
And you get something for as a business owner, like you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. No one's giving us trophies, but us typically, right? So
100%, 110%.
So for me, like build those trophies in your program because it keeps you motivated as well. So like every piece I've ever got for watches, I collect watches. I have a moment of something I've achieved to buy that. And
when you look at it, does it remind you
exactly.
of that milestone?
It reminds you of that milestone. Hey, I did this. I hit my first 100 loan officers. This is the piece I got. I hit 500. This is the piece I got. Whether I achieve things, that was for me. Like I like that. And the good thing about Rolex is they've only went up by about 100% as far as their value.
You did well on those over COVID for sure.
And my wife used to always give me crap. She's like, "Oh, these watches." I'm like, watches are way more valuation as far as appreciation than anything you're ever going to buy. Even your ring, I told her, I'm like, your ring, I give you like 1/3 the price of it of what I paid for it, but the watch they're going to hold. And she always give me that look, right? And a couple weeks ago, she saw the big report. She's like, Rolex has been the best investment over real estate, over anything in the last decade. And she's like, "All right, you're right. You're right." I'm like, well, it happens from time to time.
Yeah, I love how you talked about like defining it, right? Because I just threw an example there and I said, I want to go bigger, but you're like, bigger is not anything. Define that. What is that actual? And I think that's where a lot of people fall short is they're not specific on what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go, what they're trying to accomplish. When you guys were building the mortgage company through this, did you have specific goals? Like, hey, we want to grow to this many LOs?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I usually will set up in segments every time. Like when I first thing it was like, okay, I'm going to hit 50. And then I doubled it. Every time I doubled my size, right? Like, and I already give but in 6 months, I'm going to hit another 60 LOs by this time. My brother always laugh. My brother-in-law would always laugh. He works with us and he's like, "Chris, you're going to hit it." And I'm like, well, we'll see. I'm going to focus on hitting it. But if I go bigger and better, which normally I did more, but I've always was put at that point where I'm going to accomplish it. This is the goal, but I'm going to accomplish it. Like, I'm not going to stop, and that's what keeps you moving. And then business, that's the one thing where a lot of people, like once they achieve a little success or achieve some great successes, they put that, as you said earlier, take the foot off the gas. That's the problem. And I've seen it so many times, and it's probably a big reason why I don't as much, because most of my day when I recruit people, I've talked to many people that lost their butts in '08. Like had everything, the cars, the houses, and they lost it all. Why? Well, they took the foot off the gas as part of it, and also they didn't plan, right? You hope for the best, but you plan for the worst, always, right? Yes, like it's cool to have nice cars and watches and stuff like that. I didn't buy that stuff until I had the necessary things, like own a house first. Don't buy a freaking Rolex if you don't own a house.
Yeah.
Cool, I've got a nice shiny watch in my hand, but I have no assets. Like, what does that matter? Like, luxury items are luxury after you have the essentials. Home's an essential. Have a roof over your head you're making money on.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people value these, like Louis Vuitton and Chanel. Like, I don't buy that stuff on like wear it on a daily basis, like accessories here and there, but I'm not buying the shirts and stuff like that. Like, I'm not spending $2,000 on a shirt that says Chanel on it. It does nothing for me. I'm going to probably spill something on it anyways. So it's a waste of my money. So for me, like, that stuff doesn't matter as much. Like, obviously everyone has a value of where they spend money, but people are always going to judge you where you're spending your money anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'll look at me and I'll spend money on certain things, and I'll look at you like, why do you spend your money on that stuff? That's your everyone has their own things. That's fine. That's different. Don't judge people on that. But focus on the big picture stuff, right? It's great if you have a whole closet of Louis Vuitton in your apartment. Like, big picture, that you could put all that money towards a house, make more money, and you're going to have more wealth around it. Those things will come and go. They don't define. So focus on the big picture stuff, or reinvest it back in your business. Luxury items are after that. That's what we need to focus on.
And being financially literate with that, right? Like, you guys have investments in different things, I'm sure, that you've gone and built up, right? And, if the market does get more shaky, you guys have been positioning yourself for that.
Yeah, and diversification of your income is the biggest thing. And that's something I'm always studying. Like, I have many different outlets for income. It's not just mortgage. I have a real estate division. I own multiple properties these times, and cash flow, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. There's like 10 different things I'm making money at all times. There's never a stop of money coming in. And if something slows down, then something else is still there. Like, I don't ever put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Or like some people like the one thing. Gary Keller wrote the book One Thing at Keller Williams when I was there. Everybody's like, the one, just focus on one thing and be great at that one thing. And I never liked that. It's like, okay, but I can do a lot of things and be great at it as well. And if I put all my eggs into one basket and that one thing goes sour, I'm starting from zero again. So for me, yes, I can focus on many things. I have that ability, but it's taking me time to do so. But I'm always saying, like, at least diversify your income if you can. Like, figure out a couple of different places you're making money and don't just rely on one thing. Like, look at the crypto market.
Bloodbath.
Well, and believe me, I was being called an idiot for like the last 3 years by all my friends who are multimillionaires with crypto. They're like, Chris, you're doing great on everything else, but why aren't you investing in crypto? And I'm like, listen, I don't invest in things I don't really know. That's the biggest thing. And I really could never clearly understand it. And I always told them, I was like, you're doing great. That's amazing. Pull up the winnings, put it in something else, and keep the rest riding. Even pull your initial investment, just put it in something else. And a lot of these get, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And I have friends that are driving Uber now. They're multimillionaires on paper or digitally. Now they're driving Uber. And it sucks. And it sucks for them. But you got to think about those people. They didn't make that money based on being smarter than us or being a harder worker. You're just playing a video game that was paying off good dividends, but it didn't really like teach you how to grind it out, right? To have that discipline.
Yeah.
So now that's gone. Now what are they going to make that kind of money doing? They don't really have any skills to utilize that to transfer to something else, right? And that's the issue. So it's use the money. Like, you got to know when to cash out. It's like gambling. Like, if you eventually the house wins, right? You got to know.
House always wins. Get out while you're ahead.
Yeah, don't be greedy with things. If you're doing good with something, great. Pull out half that money and put it into something else, and keep that other one running. That's what diversification should be.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, as we come to wrap things up here, Chris, just anything else on your heart that you want to share with the audience, just to really help motivate them. The goal of this show really is, I believe that there will never be another you in the world, and that you were created perfect just the way you are, with gifts and talents and ideas and dreams and passions. That it's our responsibility to steward those gifts, figure out the channels we want to give them away to the world. It can be many things like you're doing right now. And really, what would you speak into the audience? Anything you haven't said today to help them fully tap into that in their own life?
Well, I love what you said. And I'm going to disagree with you one thing. I don't think we're all made perfect. Okay, I don't believe that. Like, that's my belief, and that's your belief, and there's nothing wrong with that belief. And what I mean by that is, if you can change your outcome, You can change your appearance. You can change your success level. You can change your education level. You can change if you have hair or not, right? You are the person that's going to be capable. So you need to own that. So if my belief system is, I'm not disagreeing with you. Yes, we're all born and we have opportunities, but you can change your place in life if you put the time, the attention, and you focus on owning your success. And the one thing like I try to give to everyone is if they take away what I say or not, whether it's 110% or owning it, but owning your place in life, owning if you're successful, owning if you're not doing what's necessary to be successful, and understanding it all comes back down to you as a person. So it's easy to blame everyone else, the economy, the market, your friends, bad employer, if things are not going well. But if you stop that and stop complaining and stop putting blame on everyone else and everything else around you and started saying, hey, I'm in control of this. I'm the person that's going to define my success. I'm going to define if I'm successful, if I'm happy, if I'm a good father, if I'm a good brother, if I'm in shape, if I'm healthy. You define it. So you have to work on it. You have to own it, and you have to put all your passion, your energy, and time into it. If you believe in it, you will accomplish it. But you have to work on it, bottom line.
Yeah, it's so good. And, anybody can change their circumstance, like you just said. So you believe that if they set their mind to it, they can fully do it.
It's mindset is the big part, right? You have the mindset, but you have to act, right? There's one thing I'm saying, I'm going to do this, Cody. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And there's one thing of me actually doing it. So if you're going to work at, if you want to lose 20 pounds and you're not waking up every day to do, if you're not doing something towards that, you're not going to achieve it. It's just saying it. And most of those things, they stop, you fail, you quit.
Yeah.
So if you want something, you need every day push forward. And even the times you feel like things are not going your way, or you're not getting momentum, push harder, because that's when the barriers are broken. You're going to have times of plateau. But the one thing I've always told my clients is if you have a plan of success, and there's going to be moments where you're going to think, hey, this isn't working. This isn't the right plan. But you keep driving forward and you will accomplish it. Right?
Yeah.
Just like marketing, branding, things like that. No one's going to know who you are if you say it one time and you walk in the room. No one's
you
going
say
to remember
over
you.
And over and over and over and over
everywhere you go and tell people, you walk in the room, they're like, that's Chris Groves, that's the 110 guy, right? Because I've burnt it out, I burnt into their brain of who I am and what I'm about. And that's how you grow your business. That's how you grow respect, is you follow it every day and people know who you are because of that.
Yeah, that's so good. Chris, how can people connect with you, follow what you're doing, get plugged into what you're doing with 110?
The 110movement.com is a website based around, everything we're doing, all my videos and things like that. And then my IG handle is CEO Groves Capital. I'm always on there, respond to people as well. If you have questions, you want to pick my brain on things, I'm always available. As long as you're willing to receive information, I always love to give it.
Yeah, be the one, not the 999 guys.
And own it. And like you said, every day when you wake up, you own your success. This is a brand new year. People want to be motivated right now. It's on you. Take control every day. It's not just, hey, Monday through Friday. It's like every day. You gotta push forward and make sure your friends, your family know where you're going. If you don't tell the people that are around you that should be supporting you, like what you want to achieve, you're not getting there. You got to make sure they're in the same place, right? And take account of those friends, the people that are negative, that are taking your energy, that are being dramatic, or like every time it's just like that toxic, icky feeling. Get rid of them.
Yeah, that's so good.
And it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. But as I've done that through my life, I've just propelled and done better and better. And I felt better too. I don't have to hide from who I want to be anymore, or who I actually am. And that's important. So be around people that are like-minded, that make you want to be the best you.
So good. Well, Chris Groves, it's an honor to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for your time today.
Appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to the Cody Cottle Show. And as always, go make today great.
Yeah, baby.